Welcome to our 10th episode of In Pursuit of Magic, where we explore the things that inspire us, connect us, and the magic we find along the way. I'm Matthew Medina, and today's very special guest is an actress, singer, writer, director, what doesn't she do, who recently starred in Real Women Have Curves and is part of countless other projects, musicals, things in the works, things that I'm excited about. Very, very excited to have Florencia Clenca here today. Thank you, Florencia, for being here. I'm very excited to chat with you today.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you so much for having me here. Can't wait to dive in.
Me too. So I've been watching you perform for a couple years now. It started with Jaime and La Familia. I've been getting to see you in Real Women Have Curves. I mean, you are a powerhouse. So yeah, I'm excited to find out what were your earliest inspirations. What got you into performing and made you want to get on a stage?
Well, as you know, I grew up in Mexico. I was born and raised there, Mexico City to be specific. And my dad, he was a comedian. He was part of a very successful duo in the 70s. So he was an actor. So when I was born like on stage basically. I never had other choice. From the very beginning I was like, okay, this is what my family does. I want to be an actor too. And I feel like I am so lucky because since I was 2, 3 years old, I was 3 actually, the very first time that I acted on stage.
Wow.
So I would say my family and my environment and my dad and my mom, they were my inspiration to do what I do right now. And I feel so lucky that I'm still doing it.
For sure, I could see how growing up in that environment is not only so enriching in what you're absorbing, but so like you get to pull from different things. I mean, seeing you act in Real Women Have Curves, you clearly have comedic timing on top of the acting and the singing. So it's like it all kind of flows together, which is really interesting to see. What was that like performing at 3 years old? From what you can remember, like finally getting on stage?
I feel like it is one of those things that it's a mix that things that you kind of remember and that other people have told you and the videos that you have seen. But since the very beginning, this was my life. I was so full when I was on stage. And actually, for a very long time, everybody was like, oh, you're going to do what your dad does, right? You're going to be an actor and you're going to be in comedy. And I was like, yeah, maybe like I can be funny. But then at like around 8 years old, 7, I started to know more about musical theater. My dad, he was the first one who played The Sound of Music to me, or what else in those times? Singing in the Rain. So I knew about musical theater around 7, 8 years old. And I was like, okay, wait a second. This is what I want to do because you can do everything. You can dance, you can act, you can sing. And yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah, I could see not wanting to box yourself into one thing, but finding something that you can flex all of those muscles all at once. What do you remember in terms of your path from that first performance in kind of diving in full force as you got older? And then whether it was starting in Mexico and then coming over here?
At the beginning, because I was with my dad acting with him, I feel like he was my safe place, when I was like, okay, we're doing this together. And I know that you got my back. And then he passed away when I was 9 years old. And for me, that was like a big shock. And my mom was like, what do you want to do? You want to keep acting? Do you want to like move on? What are your thoughts? And I was like, no, I want to keep acting. But of course, I lost something in me. And I think it took me many years to gain that back, the security, the self acceptance, the self worth. But everything happens for a reason. And when I started acting professionally on my own without my dad in Mexico, I was like, okay, I remember how it feels. I'm feeling it. And for a moment, I was very young when I was in Mexico and I was already doing big musicals there. We have an industry, but it's not, of course, as big as Broadway. So my dream was always like, one day I'm gonna go to New York and I'm gonna be on Broadway. But that felt like a very, like when kids are like, I want to be an astronaut, like things like that. It felt like very unachievable. And then I met my husband and we decided to came and everything started to happen. So it's been a journey of learning, unlearning, discovering, rediscovering, adapting, uh, with a lot of resilience. But I think it's beautiful and I think it doesn't end. It's going to keep going. Like, for example, right now, that as you said, I was on Broadway this year. It was amazing, but it's okay. It's gone, What's next?
Right.
So it's like it's a non-stopping journey for us as creative, as theater makers, as performers.
Absolutely. And I think something that's beautiful about your journey also is you had this dream of being on Broadway, and yeah, it felt like this astronomical type of dream, and yet you did it. And in a lot of ways that is part of the trailblazing journey you're leaving and showing to other people with that same dream, it's possible. You can do this, you can get there, you can be represented on stage. And I think the other beautiful part of it is you accomplished that dream, and like you said, well, what's next? And I think instead of the scary question of what's next, there's an excitement there too. There's wow, well, I achieved that. Well, if that was like such a big dream and I did that, then what is next? Like, what else is possible then? And I just think it's going to keep getting higher and higher for you. So I know you're in the middle of a lot of things, but we also talked about community a lot on this podcast. And I know that's been a big part of your journey. And based on what you shared about your father, I think that is kind of what he created for you, the safe space where you felt comfortable performing and being free and being yourself. And I see that a lot with La Familia and the community that you and your husband have been growing and other artists you're connecting with. And I'm wondering how that impacts your journey and not only your performing, but kind of the lower moments, the setbacks, the obstacles when you're having those moments where you're kind of doubting like what's going on.
I feel like I am 100% sure that I wouldn't have been able to achieve what I've done so far without my community. I am where I am because of them. As you know, as immigrants in this country, you have to like stand together and have each other's back. And I feel it's so powerful when, in my case, I can say immigrants or Latina people come together. It's just so special. It's just hits different. It's like an instant familia because we get each other. We get our jokes, we get our traditions and also our family's traditions. So by creating the familia with Jaime, I think we've been together doing this concert for maybe like 5 years or a little bit more. And I think we have fostered that, like the community that I think it's so special and it's so important, especially in this political climate, right?
Yes.
But even like that, I feel like when you have your people surrounding you, it's so powerful and you feel unstoppable. And that's what has happened to us. And it's not like a one way thing that what can I get from you? It's like, how can we help each other all the time? It's like, yes, I'm singing at your concert. And then can you help me with this? Hey, I have an audition. Can it's like, it's a two-way street help that we create for each other. And hopefully we can keep creating this in a bigger and bigger scale for young artists, for young performers, for young composers, creative. That sometimes I've felt it that I don't belong in some white spaces and it's like, oh, I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel like I belong. But then I get with my people and I'm like, okay, I feel safe here. I can thrive. I can create. I am inspired by others. And that's really special.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who's just been in the audience for a lot of these concerts, I feel it in the room. You feel that sense of family and community and the connectedness, both between everyone on stage and everyone in the audience, and it's just something magical that's created there. And so I'm wondering like what that experience was like then in Real Women Have Curves, which was such an incredible musical in so many different ways, but you were so involved and so close with these group of people, and I'm wondering how that really changed the experience for you? I mean, you're there day in and day out. It's a busy schedule.
Yes, I adore the company of Real Women Have Curves. And to be honest, one of the most precious things that I got from that project is the friendships that I made there. Because at the end of the day, the show ends, Broadway ends, but what it's left behind is the connections that you made with those people. I was involved from the very beginning of the project. That means that I was involved like 3 years ago, the very first 29-hour reading. So I met people there that were still in on Broadway. So I'm like, oh, we've been together for 3 years. It's like a relationship, you know? Some of my closest friends to this day, I met them there. So I will always be grateful that I had that experience because I know that our friendships that are gonna be for the rest of my life. And what a blessing that we got to experience that together, that Broadway show, that many of us did our Broadway debuts. We went to the Tonys, we released the cast album. It was like amazing. So yeah, I love especially my women there. It's like mis hermanas.
Yeah, you could definitely tell how special the show was and everyone involved in it, and just how big and powerful it felt. And I'm wondering, how did that translate also with a live audience every night? Like, what did it feel like getting to tell this story and kind of feeling the crowd's reaction to such a beautiful tale?
I feel what we heard a lot, it was like, "Oh my god, you're having so much fun on stage, right?" And we were like, "Yes." And I feel like the audience felt that, and that's why they loved it because every night we were having so much fun. It wasn't another gig. It wasn't just like, oh my God, it's our work, our job. No. Yes, we were having fun. Like every single night, there was something new. There were like also to play with the people's reaction, sometimes like we're in the middle of an argument on stage and they would laugh or they would react or they would gasp and we would be like trying to hold it. So I feel that's why people loved it so much. It was because we were having so much fun. And because we are women, we are POC, we never take for granted when we have the opportunity to be on stage. So we were milking every single second
Yes.
there. And I feel the audience felt that. And even like to do the stage door, yes. Sometimes you're so tired and you just want to go home. But all of us were like, no, let's do the stage door. Like, this is amazing. Like, thank you, people that are coming. Let's talk to them. And they were like, wow, this is the nicest stage door that I've been. Like, you guys are amazing. Because we will like talk with them, like, oh, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Why are you like, and there were, of course, a lot of women, a lot of curvy women, a lot of Latinos, a lot of gay men, a lot of LGBTQ community coming. And honestly, I want to know about them. I want to hear about them, like their feedback. How did they feel? And it's a healing experience that we had on the stage door. And I'm so grateful we did that.
I think that's part of the beauty of having a live audience when you're performing, getting that connection and the humanity that shines through and people that resonate with the stories you're telling on stage and your performances. I think it really comes through and it shows itself. So that's a very beautiful, like, I guess, part of the experience, I think, in performing anything on stage. And yeah, stage door, I think, is always so special in that way because you get to hear some of these stories or people feel like the freedom and the safety to tell you their stories, which I think is also special and really beautiful, which shows that the art that you were just part of touched them in that way. It made them feel safe, which I think is very special.
And I think in many of our cases, we were there. Like, we remember, like, when we were younger, being on the stage door waiting for Eden Espinosa, or Megan Hilty. So it's like, I know how it feels. Yes. And there were many young Latinas that they were like, I'm studying acting here in New York. I want to be like you. And I was like, oh my God, yes, you can. Si se puede. I was so excited to see all those young girls, Mexicanas, Latinas, just like looking up to us. And I was like, dude, I'm a human. You can do it too. If I did it, you can do it too. You're going to be here in a couple of years and I can't wait to see it. And they would cry. But that's that's so special, like to see that the work that you are doing is having a good repercussion and it's inspiring the young generation that I feel so passionate about, to talk with the young generation and like help them, inspiring them. So it was amazing.
Yeah, I think what you're doing in that way is so impactful and so special. I think especially in a big city like New York where there's so many people chasing that dream or so many people visiting New York because they have that dream, because they want to be inspired. And so that extra human connection is just sometimes that's all someone needs. Just a little spark of telling you this is possible. You can do this for them to pursue it. And so I think that's a beautiful thing that you're doing. Real women have curves was such a special message, and it seems like there's a lot of stories that you're a part of that hold a special heart at the center of it. And I know another one of those, recently did a reading for Desaparecidas. So what can you talk about in terms of the reading and what you're doing, your involvement?
We wrote Desaparecidas like 4 years ago. Actually, it was so funny because we spent a year doing interviews to people in Mexico because it's a musical that talks about the disappearances of women in Mexico, not just because of death, but because of like, how can you disappear as a mom? How can you disappear as a wife? Like your husband doesn't see you, your kid doesn't see you. How can you disappear as an activist? Like you sometimes are so into your mission that you forget about you and you don't eat. It's like many, many types of disappearances. And it was like a way for us to celebrate the lives of women in Mexico. So we wrote it 4 years ago. We had like a workshop production in Brooklyn at Jack. And then we kept rewriting, as creative people, as writers, you never stop. It's like, okay, no, I can tweak the scene, I can tweak the song. And we've had a couple of opportunities to do that, a couple of residencies and workshops. And now we decided to do a new 29-hour reading here in the city because last year we did one in Chicago and it was amazing. So we were like, okay, I think the project now it's in a very good shape. So we had a 29-hour reading a couple of weeks ago, hopefully to get someone interested, a producer, a theater, so we can really have a New York production of the show because our idea is that it's an immersive experience. Desaparecidas, it's set in a palenque. Palenque, it's like a rodeo, but in Mexico. It's like a rodeo. So my idea is to have a rodeo and you have like how do you call it here? Like a fair, like a state fair, like they have
Yeah.
little stands and you can eat the snacks, but everything would be Mexican, like churros, elotes, the beers, and you have also like the games for the kids or the grown-ups. So for me, we want to really, really, really hope that someone is interested in create like an immersive experience where you go to the state fair, you are there for an hour, and then it's time for the show, and you go to the rodeo. And when you go to the rodeo, you're gonna see a show, and it's gonna be like I'm gonna be talking to you. It's a musical, but there's no fourth wall, so you're involved all the time. So hopefully that happens. Let's manifest that.
Yes, I'm manifesting that. I could see it happening. As you were describing it, I was like, okay, how long does Cabaret have left on Broadway? Because we could use that theater, go downstairs, you delete in the pre-show, all of that. I could see it happening. So
Exactly.
I picture it. Yeah, I think that would be beautiful. And I think having it be immersive would be another added element to really impact what the story is about.
Yes, totally. Because uh at least in some stories you need to like be in it, like be surrounded by the culture, by the sounds, by the smell, and that helps the audience a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think there's certain theaters that are very much built for that and would really just help tell that story. So I'm excited to see what happens next because I know it's been worked on for a while. Among other things, the other musical that's been worked on a lot is Roja, which I know there's been some recent stuff with that too. So tell me a little bit more about Roja.
Roja started, that was fast. I would say not even 2 years ago. Um, Jaime, my husband, and Tommy, his collaborator, they wrote a show together called El Otros. So their connection, it's so good. And when they work together, their melodies and their music, it's like yummy. Like you're gonna love it. It's amazing. So they were like, we should write another musical. And I was like, yeah, guys, you need to write it like right now. And the three of us were like, okay, let's do it. What if we do an adaptation of Little Red Riding Hood set in the north of Mexico, that it's like the desert. And what if the wolf is a coyote? So we started to mix a little bit of like Mexican stories and fables with Little Red Riding Hood, and we created our own thing. In that project, I am involved as director and developer, which is so fun because for the first years, you just get to ask questions. I read new stuff and I'm like, I don't know. I feel this, I feel that. And I love that. I love new works because it makes you think a lot. And it's like, hey, wait, but didn't we have that already? It's like just checking. So we started that like 2 years ago. And it's been having some traction and the people are really interested. They've been applying to grants and residencies. They have won a couple. We just did a 45-minute excerpt at NAMT, which is the National Alliance for Musical Theater. And it's like a big conference for musicals, which is amazing. It
Yes.
was my first time doing it. And I was like, wow, this is like Disneyland musical theater lovers because you go, you can see like 3, 4 excerpts of new musicals. And I think they have like a 500 submission and they just pick 8. So you see 45 minutes of the best musicals that are being written right now. And artistic directors, investors, they go, the owners of theaters, and they go and they're like, okay, I'm interested in that. That could be good for my theater. It can be here in New York. It can be regional. That I feel like right now there's a lot of interesting things happening regional in theater. So we did that. It was amazing. People loved it. And hopefully we can keep going because I feel Roja, it's so special. It's so specific. The music, everything, like the world, it's just something that we haven't seen. So I am waiting for the producers and the investors. I know that Jaime and Tommy are already having like conversations with people because it needs to go up as soon as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited, like, hearing about it, so I'm glad that more has been happening because, yeah, I definitely agree we need more original works.
Yeah.
Broadway has been so overstuffed with revivals or adaptations
Hmm.
sometimes of things that don't really need it. So I'm excited for more original stuff, and this sounds so exciting and so beautiful. And it makes me wonder, you talked a little bit about stepping to that director chair, but what has that been experience for you, changing from maybe more acting and writing and performing to now kind of making some of these decisions and getting to have a voice, which in theater you don't always get to.
I feel one of the biggest reasons because I wanted to start directing is because I want to take care of the human beings doing the work. Sometimes we don't have good leaders. And I'm like, especially in POC's rooms or unrepresented communities, you need to have a care for the actors and the creative team And I was like, "Hey, if I'm not getting that, I'm gonna do it." You know? I wanna tell stories from a different point of view, and that's something that I'm like that. I'm always if I'm acting, I'm like, "How would I direct the show?" Or the other side too, if I'm directing, I'm like, "Ooh, I love that role. How would I act that role?" And I'm always missing one of or the other. But as a director, I feel like it's so exciting to see people making choices. That's what I love about directing because you just have to, I mean, of course, it's a difficult job. We all know that. But the exciting thing is seeing actors live making big and risky choices. I'm like, yes, that's life. I love it. And sometimes you just say one question, one word, they get it. You don't have like you're directing them, but it's just like you're opening the space for them to be free. And I think that's one of the things that we need in rooms, in rehearsals, is to be free. I feel like I'm a good human being and
Yeah,
I can create a free and safe space for all to be free. And hopefully I can get to do that more often. I really, really love it. And yeah, let's see what happens with that.
absolutely. And we need more female directors. So we need those spaces to be created. And I fully believe that all the shows you're working on are going to become fully realized. So I know they're going to happen. You talked a bit about watching people make choices, your actors. And I'm wondering, is there ever a moment now as a director where, because it's an original work, they make a choice that makes you think, oh, like I didn't see things in that way, but now I'm rethinking a little bit of the script or another choice to make or maybe a change to make. Does that ever happen? Is there like a change on both ways?
Yes, exactly. That's part of the creation and the collaboration that you create in a room, in a rehearsal space, especially with new works. That's why actors are so important in that step of new works, right? Because first, the writers are creating their world, and now they need to hear it out loud to make if it makes sense to have a couple of different eyes and ears. And sometimes when we are in rooms, they are like, wait, but I don't get it. Why is he saying this? And we're like, that's true. Yes, of course. And they write and they're like, okay, we're having a rewrite. And I think that's so exciting. Or sometimes as writer, you're like, okay, this is gonna be funny. And then you read it and it's not funny, and you're like, no, it was just funny in my or the opposite side, the way they are, like, saying their line, it's so funny, and we're like, "Oh my god, I love that. Let's milk that joke." So it's very interesting, and that's why I think we need to feel safe in rehearsals rooms so we can create again as Latinos, as women, as LGBTQ+, like, to be on those spaces, we need to be safe and we need to our leaders to treat us right. And that's what we are always trying to do, Jaime and I. Like even when he does the Familia concerts and we have rehearsals with all the musicians, it's like, okay, yes, we are working. Yes, this is our job. But the most important thing is that we are humans. And I want you to be okay. I want you to be happy. I want you to be as relaxed as you can. So then we can create. It's not the opposite. It's not the opposite because it doesn't flow that way.
Definitely. It seems like the most beautiful outcomes exist when there's that safe space and the comfortability. And everyone can kind of affect each other. I feel like people inspire each other as they work together. And that just creates a better outcome, which you don't always get. I'm sure there's plenty of productions that are very strict and the director is like, no, we're keeping it this way. This is your line, this is what you're gonna say, and that's it. It's rare to
Yeah.
get this kind of environment, but I think it's the best kind of projects that result from it. And it goes to show, like, the shows you wanna direct and that you're creating are part of that environment. And so I'm wondering, is there a role that maybe whether it's a role you wanna write and create yourself or a role that exists out there that is your dream role? Something that maybe you haven't done before that you would love to?
I feel like right now I want to step into new works as director or as an actor. So I'm always like, well, my dream role is being written somewhere. I like to think that. And in terms of like, for example, industry, I really want to do a play. I am dying to do a play. So manifesting someone hiring me to do a play, but
Yes.
also I want to do TV and I want to do um, a TV show, like a comedy, a sitcom. I would be great in a sitcom. So hire me, please.
Yes. Absolutely.
Well, hopefully that happens soon.
I
I
can definitely
really,
see it. Yeah, I'm saying do all the things. There's no reason to just pick one. You've already been doing so much. As long as you still get sleep, because I don't know how you get sleep amidst doing all of that, but you do it.
yes, I want to do it all. That's me. Like, we just get one life. We just have to make
Yes.
big choices, be risky, and like pursue your dreams. It's like what you said at the beginning. It's like, okay, I did Broadway. It was amazing. What's next? That's exciting. Like the sky is the limit. I want to do it all. And I don't think it's wrong to say that. It's like, I want to do it all as much as I can in this life.
Yeah, exactly. I think back, and I've mentioned it before to someone else, but this movie called Tomorrowland from Disney, there was a scene in which a young girl is looking up at a constellation in a planetarium and talking about wanting to go out there and see what's out there. And her parents are like, well, what if nothing's out there? And she's like, well, what if everything is out there? And I feel like that's so
Mm,
true when it comes to the possibilities in our own lives where we don't know, or maybe we had that one dream and maybe either we got it and then we don't know what's next, or maybe that dream didn't work out, but it wasn't the dream that was really meant for us. There's something better and we just don't know it yet. And
yeah.
that can
Yeah.
be tough sometimes, especially when you're hearing a lot of no's, which is very common in this industry. It's a lot of closed doors. There's a lot of, you don't fit this box. You're not what we're looking for. If you even get a response, half the time there's just silence. And so I'm wondering, what advice would you give to people that are in those lows and how to get past them to keep striving for the high again?
Even if it sounds so cheesy, I do believe that there's no one like you. Like the power that we have, it's big. Don't try to be like anyone else. Like just being your full self, it's the only way that people will see you. And that's what they want. They want an individual that sparks something in them. And when you are standing in your power and your authenticity, uh, they're gonna want you. And if they don't want you, then go and do your own stuff. Right now, we have social media, YouTube, videos, music. Like, we have it all so we can keep creating. And there's no one who knows your story better than you. So go and tell your story. Maybe you are very good at baking and comedy. Let's do a fucking baking comedy show. I don't know, It's like be
Yeah.
creative, just put yourself out there because those little silly things that you're like, oh, well, I'm good at this and this and this, but they don't make sense. Well, make it make sense. Create your own work, create your own box, and then you're gonna find out that there's a lot of people that feel like you and they want you or they feel represented by you. I think that's what happened when Jaime and I created the Broadway and Spanglish concert that we did and we have an album. It's like we were like, well, maybe we're the only ones who like this, but it's okay. And then we found out that there were many people that were like, oh my God, my dream was to listen to Broadway and mariachi in the same song. And now you guys did it. You never know who's waiting for your art or what you have to give.
Yeah. I think you hit it right on the head. And I think it's beautiful that, I've been very inspired by how you've done it, how Jaime has done it, and a lot of the other people I've talked about that you don't wait for a door. You guys have been creating doors and then holding them open for the person behind you. And I think that's part of the beauty of this community and being part of this family. I think there's just so much beauty and artistry within that connection with others and not waiting for someone else to create something, and I think you also said it where you said, wondering, will anyone even like this or want this? Maybe it's just me. And finding that peace where you're okay with it, if it is just you, maybe it is just you, but who are you making it for? Are you fulfilling something for yourself or are you just doing it, you know, for other people to say, "Oh, you're great," which is not the case. You're creating because 'cause you're an artist and you're fulfilling something in you. And I think that's when people respond and react to it because they see the authenticity, they see the beauty in that. And so, yeah, it's no surprise to me that so many people have responded to the things that you're creating. I think that that goes to show that, first of all, that you're not alone and that anyone listening and has that dream or is trying to pursue something is not alone, but that everything someone has to offer, it's not in a glass bottle. It's not separated from everyone else. There's going to be people who respond. Like you will find your people, which I've realized has happened a lot with projects you're a part of. I mean, the fact that there's such a family dynamic, it shows that you've found the right people to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You said it right.
And, with the creation of La Familia and community, how has that kind of changed your experience now in terms of, you've done a lot of work, you're continuing to do a lot of work, and it seems like it's continuing to grow, not only in terms of what you're doing, but that family. And how has that dynamic kind of maybe affected you and how you hope to affect it?
Right now, I don't know if you know, but we're also like creating an organization with that umbrella, like the familia. And I feel like that's the next step that we want to pursue. And it's an organization that looks and wants to foster community within us, yes, as artists and immigrants, but also to bring arts and theater to younger Latine performers or people who are studying here and they cannot afford to see shows on Broadway, which is crazy right now that you're like, oh, yes, I am studying theater, but I cannot afford to go and see a Broadway show, right? And we started doing that when I was in Real Women Have Curves. I would buy tickets and I would be like, hey, I have 5 tickets for today for Latine, young POC theater students. And everybody was like, oh, this is amazing. And I think we want to keep creating that. And hopefully, this organization can help more people because what we need is representation. We need community. I think like those are the two things that will help us to move forward as all. So we're working on that to keep creating that for us.
That's beautiful. Because, yeah, I think theater can be difficult when you feel like it's not something that the average person can afford. I know my experience with it, when I was younger, my first show was Beauty and the Beast on Broadway. And that was like a big deal. Like my family saved up, they got tickets, we got to go. And it was like my only experience when I got into high school. And I was lucky enough at the time that the Theater Development Fund had a program. And in their program, they chose certain high schools to sponsor, and they would choose 8 students from each high school. And 8 to 10, something like that. And throughout the school year, you would see 8 Broadway shows, and then afterward have a discussion with someone who's involved in theater. And the fact that I got to see 8 Broadway shows in a year just changed
Wow.
my love of theater, my love of Broadway, my love of musicals. It increased my knowledge of it. It made me want to see more. And then at the end of the program, they give you 2 free tickets a year for 4 years. I don't know if they still
Oh,
do this, and I don't know how limited it is. The thing is, I was lucky I went to the high school I went to, and I was offered that and I was chosen. But there's plenty of people who probably weren't, or high schools that didn't sponsor that. And so I think it's beautiful that your organization is looking to include people of all ages more that kind of haven't been able to be exposed to Broadway. And really, if they were, could become part of it, could be part of the change, could be creating stuff of their own. So yeah, I
yes,
think
because
it's very
you don't
important.
see if you don't see it, then you think you don't belong or you don't get to dream, you know? And when you go to a Broadway show, like, for example, in Real Women Have Curves, we had so many like older people were like in their 60s that they were like, this is my first time going to theater. Can you imagine that at 60? And they were like, and I never came because I thought it wasn't a place for me. Like, there are no stories that look like me or people like look like me. So why would I do it? And they went there and they were like, oh my God, I love it. I feel so represented. And that's what we want to keep doing for people, because I feel arts heal our minds, our souls, and we need the arts now more than ever.
Absolutely. Healing and change. That's what we need, especially in this community and in theater, in this country in general, in the world in general. It's very much needed. And I know you're busy at work with so many things to make a lot of that happen. So I'm very curious because this life can get busy, it can get overwhelming, it could be nonstop. Then there's moments of not being so nonstop, of slowing down a bit and then wondering, well, what do I do next? And there's a little bit of that. But when it gets so busy and overwhelming, how do you recenter yourself and find your peace and a way to kind of just take a breath and find like the energy or the willpower to say, like, I have to keep going, even when you hit those setbacks and obstacles?
I think it's good to be quiet. And sometimes we don't want silence or to be quiet. And sometimes we need that because we are nonstop working and auditioning and looking for things and blah, blah, blah. And sometimes you just need to like, zip, you know, and try to listen what the world is saying to you, what the world or God or earth is saying to you, and just like trusting your path. I think it helps again the community to have a very good support system that can like got your back when you're feeling low, and to remind you who you are. Sometimes you're like, no, I'm no good, everything's wrong. So your cheerleaders, your support system to remind you who you are. I feel sometimes when I'm like that, I am like, okay, it's time to get that cafecito with that friend who reminds me like why I love what I love. What am I doing? The family and the community is so important for me, and they are the ones who are always like pushing me to keep going.
Beautiful. I think it's a balance of them grounding you, but also lifting you. So it's such a beautiful mix to have that when, especially when things get tough, which happens often. It's never
Yeah.
a moment where things stay the same for too long. It's always changing
No.
and moving. And although we talked about a lot of what you're working on, is there anything else that you're in the middle of that you're able to talk about?
Right now, I don't think so. I think those are the projects that I'm working towards to. Of course, I'm auditioning for TV and film. Hopefully that comes,
Yes.
doing a little bit of like workshops of other people as an actor. Hopefully those musicals can succeed too. We need new stories as we said it. Yeah, let's see. Let's see what happens.
Well, I'm excited. I feel like 2026 is going to be a big year, and we're going to see a lot of these things come to fruition and be on stage. So I'm extremely hyped. My last question is, what advice would you give to anyone who is feeling like they can't pursue their dream for whatever reasons, whether it's self-doubt or thinking that there's too big of an industry, they can't tackle this, or even feeling like they are alone in having this dream and feeling this way?
My advice is to make a plan. Sometimes we underestimate to make a plan, and don't try to tackle the big thing first. Tackle the small little things. What is it? Show up, go to the audition, like work on my resume. Like those little steps and little things that you can say like doesn't matter, they do matter, because then you look at them and it's a list of things that you already tackled. Of course, it's like, yeah, Broadway, they have so much people. And it's like, yes, yes, that's the truth. Like, everyone wants to work on Broadway. But what can I do today that is getting me closer to that dream? Is it working on my songs? Is it booking? Is it
They agree.
booking? you know? Booking a vocal coaching class. What are the small little things that we can do so we can get there? And also to expand your mind, because, for example, I'm going to say as writer, I don't think all my shows belong on Broadway. No. Like, I don't want all my shows to be on Broadway, the ones that I'm writing. I feel like that's not the goal. Some of them, I'm like, of course they do belong on Broadway. But some of them, I'm like, no, I want them like touring or like an off Broadway house. So just expand your mind a little bit about what that big dream is, why you really want it so bad, and what are the ways you can like keep escalating and making it to there. Because sometimes it's just like we want the shiny stuff. We want the things that everyone is saying is the best. And sometimes that thing is not the best for us.
Absolutely. I think that kind of helps kind of recenter what someone's dream is and where they want to go and what they want to do, because sometimes maybe what the idea in our head of what something is or could be is not exactly what the reality is, but there's something even better that whatever that individual has inside them is meant for and has the tools for, which I think is part of the journey and part of the magic that we're finding along the way. And so I do think that's really beautiful in terms of that. And also finding your
Yeah.
people and, like you said, showing up. I think showing up is sometimes the hardest part, but the kind of the biggest step, because sometimes you just have to show up and everything else kind of flows once you're there. But step into that room, which I think is going to be the biggest takeaway, because not only have you stepped into that room, you're creating rooms. And that's part of what I'm so excited about in terms of everything you're up to and doing. And I can't wait to see all the magic that you create with these shows and everything that's ahead of you. So, Florencia, thank you so much for being here today. It has been an honor and such a joy and so exciting. Very much looking forward to everything you're working on and seeing you take on all these different hats.
Gracias, Matthew. This was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I want everyone else out there to know that you are not alone and keep creating some magic. Bye, everybody.